Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox, and your friend and mine, Fergus Ewing, is at it again. He's one of the very few in the SNP for whom I have any respect whatsoever. And he is an absolute beast when it comes to moaning to Humza Yousaf. And good on him, and long may he continue. He's a man of integrity. He's a man of honesty. He's one of the very few like that left in the SNP. And I like to think that he may well be the last man standing. He's had another go. He's moaning about the party. He's moaning about the quality of the SNP MSPs and MPs. And quite right too, after all. So are we. But he is saying that the current crop are all basically useless. And never was a truer word spoken. Let's have a look to see why this inveterate old git, and I say that with the nicest possible way, is really giving Humza Yousaf a whole series of massive headaches. Here goes. Now, I think ever since Fergus was thrown out for that week, he's had a bit of bitterness about it. I think he's decided that Humza Yousaf is more the enemy within the party. And I think that he is going to start making life very difficult for him. And what are they going to do? Throw him out again? You know, there's not a lot they can do really with this guy because they know how popular he is with the people. It's a very difficult situation. Of course, unless he actually says anything that's over the top, then there's not really a lot he can do. But it doesn't stop Fergus telling the truth. And that, of course, is the one thing that the SNP really can't abide. But anyway, SNP Rebel Fergus Ewing to blast lack of life experience of current crop of MSPs. Oh, they're all professional politicians. Barely any of them done a hand's turn in their life. The veteran Inverness and Nairn MSP has been a thorn in the side of Humza Yousaf by rebelling against him and will launch more broadsides against the SNP government. Good. I love watching these things because, of course, he's been around long enough, and long enough, as an MSP, but also in the party long enough to know everything about everyone. It is wonderful. SNP Rebel Fergus Ewing is set to cause more of a headache for his boss, Humza Yousaf, by slating the quality of the current crop of MSPs, hitting out the lack of life experience of a number of them, and he will compare this to the 1999 cohort, which boasted members who had achieved success and done things in life outside of politics, of course. A number of the modern intake are career politicians, like SNP Greens MSP Ross Greer, who joined the Parliament joined Parliament after dropping out of university. He's a very tiny man with a very, very strange take on the world, very bitter. Mummy's boy, still lives there. Failed at university, failed at everything, never had a job, doesn't know anything about anything, and yet sits there and expects to pontificate on how we should live our lives to his aspirations. I've got a word for you, Ross. Grow the fuck up, go get a job, join the military. See how long you last in there, mate. 10 seconds. Mr. Ewing is set to make, talking about this in advance, it was actually last night when he gave this speech, but Mr. Ewing is set to make the Donald Dewar Memorial Lecture at Glasgow Academy on Thursday night, last night. And he will use it to criticise his own party's governance of Scotland. He will claim that the country is living in an age of unreason, where the rational process of decision-making has been abandoned, largely for political purposes based often on emotion or prejudice. Yeah, nobody can look at a situation now. Nobody can look and see, there's the problem. What's the rational thing to do? What they have to say is, here's a problem. What's the thing that will make us look best in trying to solve it, whether we solve it or not? If you want to truly look good, solve the bloody problem, you know? And often, of course, the problems are their own making. So whatever happens, they're not going to look good. Anyway, one of his rebellions was against the controversial gender reform bill, and he will condemn the SNP's irrational court challenge over them. Lady Hallett is currently considering whether Westminster was right to block the legislation after the taxpayer forked out $230,000 for the court case, which he will say the party got badly wrong. The thing is, Lady Hallett can say that it was wrong, but it won't change anything. She doesn't have the power to overwrite Westminster. All they can do is then take that up to the Supreme Court. And it's not something I think that they're going to be willing to do. He will add, some now see legislation as an opportunity for virtue signalling, politicking, or creating broad frameworks which will pass all substantive powers from Parliament to the executive. In other words, bypassing the scrutiny, or more probing scrutiny. Yeah, what they want is what's called secondary legislation. So instead of presenting things to the to the Parliament and let the Parliament have the power, they want to pull the power out of Parliament and into the executive. And that, of course, is how dictatorships form. But that's what Nicola Sturgeon had been doing for quite some time. She'd been removing power from Parliament and centralising it in the executive, to such a point now that the judiciary are subjected to what the executives say, which is why Dorothy Bain halted the police investigation into Michael Matheson, because she sits as part of the executive, but she is actually controlling the judiciary. There's no independent judiciary anymore. He will point out that in the 1999 intake for the first Scottish Parliament, there were formidable politicians, but interesting, engaging people too, who had mostly had a full life before entering politics in order to serve. He will name-check the likes of the first inaugural Prime Minister, Donald Dewar, his deputy, Jim Wallace, and the famous surgeon, Sam Galbraith. Other mentions will include the marvellous Annabel Goldie, a youngish Alex Salmond, and Lord James Douglas Hamilton. You'll say when these people spoke, you listened. They all had something to say. They knew how to say it. Their views were grounded in reason, evidence and rationality, with emotion and performance used to enhance the impact. They're not just mouthing the mantras that they've been conditioned and droned into that the current crop have. He said, I was there. I was then a mere 42 years of age, a solicitor, and I'd run my own legal practice for 15 years and done other things in life too, but distinctly felt my youth and inexperience among this illustrious company. Well, that's something that has now passed. You have no longer got the burdensome of youth, you've got the grandeur of experience. He will also contrast the pedigree of these first MSPs to their modern successors today and point out that there is no shortage of examples of poor policy. He said, to move the current decade and present times, I fear the process of reason, which was largely governed decision-making in policy in 1999, has been replaced, at least partly, and possibly mainly, by politically driven processes. Most of these decisions taken for political reasons end badly, and that is why the SNP haven't had a single successful policy go through, because they've all been incredibly awful policies designed not to benefit the people of Scotland, but to push agendas, virtue signal, and make the SNP look good rather than being efficient. And that is why I love this man. He tells it as it is. He tells the truth. And I do love the tellers of truth. I shall stop there. I shall come up and little tip hat to Fergus Ewing. If only there were more like Fergus Ewing, it wouldn't be quite so bad in Scottish politics. But alas, he is the last, I think, of a dying breed. That said, he is going out with a roar, and he's not letting Humza Yousaf off the hook. And I think that all those things he said sort of apply across the board, but I think they're all sort of aimed particularly at one person and one person alone. A career politician, someone who's not achieved much outside of politics, who's actually not achieved much inside of politics, someone for whom droning the mantra is all he has, someone raised and put there by someone else, not someone who's achieved anything himself. Does that remind you of anyone? I think so. And I think that's why Fergus is saying it. He really doesn't like Humza Yousaf at all. And I think he's very bitter about his 1 week ban. So good on him. Keep it up. There we go. Thank you very much for watching. I enjoyed that. Good on Fergus. Let's more power to his bow, as it were. And let's see there's many more little barbs and spikes that he has prepared for the leadership of the SNP. Till next time, stay safe, stay well, and I shall speak to you later. Bye.